Hello, hello. Welcome back to the She Interviews. Thanks for joining us today. I am joined by my friend Ashley Reckdenwald. Hey, Ashley, how are you?
Hey, good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Ashley and I connected through Instagram. She is the owner and operator of the Instagram page Working Mom Notes, an awesome platform for working moms with really great content, stuff that I personally really feel all the stuff that you put out there. I could really relate to it. That's the word I was looking for. I could really relate to the stuff that you put out in my own mom journey. So I'm really excited to talk to you about your mom journey today, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm excited to share it, and I'm glad that you relate so well to it. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's get right into it. Let's tell everybody right now in time what you are currently doing in life.
Okay, so we're all in, this crazy world of a pandemic, and I am at home with my 3 children, ages 5, 3, and 1. My 5-year-old starts kindergarten next week. Apparently 100% in school, so we'll see how long that goes.
Wow.
And I am working, I would say full-time for myself currently to launch Working Mom Notes as a true legitimate business. I left my job in, call it corporate America, healthcare, at the end of January, and I've been kind of on this, journey to figure out what it is that I, am meant to do here. So I feel pretty good about this whole Working Mom Notes thing. I've received such positive feedback from wonderful working moms like you, and it's time to, make it real.
Take to the next level, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's where we are right in time, but there you went through kind of like a rocky road. You had like a rocky path getting to where you are now.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's what we really want to talk about, right? And I was as I was telling you before, I could totally relate to all the struggles that, you went through, except, my version of them, right? And I just know there are so many women that are going through the same thing. And being able to speak to those women that are kind of like a few steps behind us in the process and saying, hey, this is my story, I think really is helpful, right? Giving women hope that, hey, you're going to come out the other side tougher and buffer, learned a bunch of lessons, and you're also going to get to know yourself a lot better, right?
Absolutely. I actually saw a quote today that spoke so well to that. It said, motherhood is a journey where you're definitely not the first and absolutely never the last. And I loved that because that's exactly what, these conversations are all about, is hopefully the women behind us can, take something from this, or the women ahead of us can be validated in knowing that, it happened to them too, and it's okay. So I'm on board.
100%. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's go back in time.
Okay.
So right before you started going through, we called it the mom identity crisis. Right before that happened, right? Like, what was life like before you started having kids, as far as just like lifestyle and career?
So I was living in Hoboken with my husband. I had just finished graduate school, which was rigorous. I had taken my national certification, so I'm a physician assistant, and I just finished interviewing, and I landed a job in the Princeton area of New Jersey and accepted it, and was commuting back and forth, really living the life, like working, a very, high profile job with some high profile surgeons, and living my city life on the weekends. So I really couldn't complain, like even a little bit. And then we ended up moving down to this Princeton area as I became more ingrained in my job and working more hours and was truly committed. And my husband can really work anywhere because he commutes all over for his job. So we were great. We bought a house. We had this house to ourselves. It was a little bit different. And then I got pregnant with my first. So that was 2 years into my high profile job.
Your career. Okay.
Mhm.
And was it planned?
It was planned. Yep, my husband and I had been married at that point for 5 years, and we thought it was time. We had been, ready. We finally I felt comfortable in where I was in my job. I felt it was secure. I thought I had proved myself. And so I said, you know what? I think it's time. I was about to turn 30. So I said, you know what? I'm ready. Let's do this. So we did it. And I kind of kept rolling with it. Every 2 years, I had another baby 3 times in a row. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was crazy town for a little while, right? It
Yeah.
probably still is, actually. Your youngest is what you said, 1?
1.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took until now to, like, really settle in because, yeah, I've been either, like, pregnant, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, changing, for the past 5 years. It's a lot. Working full time, like 50 plus hours. And then because I'm a PA, I was taking call, like 1 to 2 times a month for 24 hours. And then about 4 times a year on weekends. So that means I was like 100% like the person. If there was any medical questions, I was getting the call. So it was a lot.
So how did your mindset start to shift while you were in the thick of like child rearing and still maintaining your career?
I think I really was torn. I think like a lot of working women are, where I was really not willing to lose that part of myself that I worked so hard for. But then I also saw this other side of my life that I like literally created and needed to allot time for, in all aspects, like the physical time, the emotional time, the nurturing, the everything. And it was really hard for me to figure that out. And I just kind of compartmentalized it, like I would just try to shut one out and then focus on one and then shut the other one out, focus on the other. And it really wasn't working for me very well. My gut felt it, like I knew it, but I kept just ignoring ignoring it because, you don't go to school for all this time and, work so hard to get to where you are. And then all of a sudden you kind of have everything. And it's like, you should be happy and you're not happy, and it's a weird and unsettling feeling.
It's your cup is overflowing, but not in a good way.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's that image out there of the career mom that does it all and juggles it all, and then you're feeling inside like this is not right, but on the outside it's like all these other women are doing it, so what's wrong with me?
Exactly. And that's exactly why I created Working Mom Notes in the first place, because I was like, how are people doing this? I didn't understand how it was so possible and how so many people were doing it and how there wasn't more support for working women out there. So I, created it. I called it Working Mom Notes because I literally wanted the notes from the other working moms. Like, tell me what your cliff notes are to how to do this. And what I've slowly discovered is that there's really no secret. There are no true notes. It's just navigating it and following your gut the best you can. And that's different for everybody.
Yes, it so is. It so is. And that's why I started interviewing women offline. Now I'm doing it online so I can share what I've been finding with other people. But that's why I was interviewing women, because what I was finding is everyone had a unique journey and everyone had a different way of making decisions.
Correct. Yes. And just because one person's decision was right for them doesn't mean that it's right for someone else. And I think that's step one, is just supporting, all working women in whatever decision they're making, because it is hard and we all feel that torn sense, at some stage of life or another, so I think it's being supportive is the utmost importance.
Yeah. And you just said, that torn feeling, which I think leads us to that identity crisis. Like, who am I?
Correct. Yeah. And, I think they've sort of dubbed the torn feeling work-life balance, and now that's the hub of the torn feeling, and people write about it. And I've always hated that term, the work-life balance, because it doesn't exist and people try to tell you it does. And it just doesn't. I mean, what I've discovered over the past 6 months through my, reflection is it's not necessarily a true physical work-life balance, because that's going to come in peaks and troughs and, ups and downs. And, you'll have some more attention some weeks for your children and more attention other weeks for work. That's normal, but it's the mentality around how you're handling the scenarios. That's what allows balance.
100%. When you say work-life balance, it sounds like just like a juggling act of your schedule. Like, oh, just make sure you're allotting enough time to deal with
right. These 5 things will make you more organized, and then you'll have work-life balance. Like, that's not true at all. But it's sold, they package it up in this cute little article and, sell it to working moms. And it's just not the
man wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Likely. So yeah, I completely don't think that's the secret at all to it.
Yeah. And I mean, what I'm finding, and I'd love your opinion on this, Ashley, but most of the work-life balance or the whatever you want to call it, it's really mindset stuff. Yeah. Like all the work, the majority of the work has to do with working on your mind, working on your confidence level,
correct,
defining who you want to be.
Correct. All of it. Yeah. And then once you have those boundaries, then it becomes much easier to maintain the balance, because then you know what your own personal boundaries are and what you're willing to accept. It's when you're being taken advantage of, or you feel that like some part of your life is just rolling over it's like you're getting steamrolled.
Yep.
And that's when you start feeling overwhelmed and out of control, and the anxiety increases, and, and you keep going in that direction. And that's when you're searching for what you think is work-life balance, when really it's more internal a lot of times.
Right. Like saying no.
Correct. Yes.
You say yes out of this is a very common thing, right? We say yes because we want to please others.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is going to make, a big thing for me was always the holidays. Like, yes. I was in the thick of having little kids and I didn't want to host the holidays, but I felt compelled to host a holiday. And so I would say yes. Mm-hmm. And I would just be like dying inside and crying inside because I was so miserable because I just didn't want to do it.
Right.
And then that wound up shining through because I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And then I look like the lunatic, right?
Right.
Yeah. Or I should have just said no to begin with. And I think men have an easier time saying no, or at least setting up their boundaries, like at work and things like that.
Correct. Yeah.
And our employers push women so much harder because, we have that Girl Friday, like, oh, just put that extra thing on Ashley's plate, or, Jessica will do it. But you try to put it on a man's plate, he's like, that's not on my job description.
Correct. Yeah. Like I even noticed, like when I was on maternity leave, people would sort of tell me, because who replaced me was a male in my role. And I was told, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was told that he was treated much differently than how I was, like I would go on lunch break and kind of like take lunch break at first, like outside of the office. And then I was spoken to one time being like, I know it's really your lunch break, but like they were paging you overhead and you weren't here to take it. So I had to take it. And I got like in trouble for that. But meanwhile, like the person that covered me would like literally disappear and come back at the very last minute of lunch break. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not fair, So it's always something. It's always like little things. And women definitely, there's a microscope on us, whether we think there is or not. Like I didn't think there was, but there clearly was.
Yes, I didn't really start to realize these things either. Just like you said, I didn't think there was, and then you started to realize it. And I think we start to realize it more when we get to the point of child rearing. And when we get to the point where we're like, wait, no, I'm supposed to be a grown up now. Why am I not being treated like a grown up?
Exactly. That's how I felt in all stages, in all aspects of my life, so I felt that way kind of at work. Then I felt that way at home, sort of similar to you. Like, I don't want to host holidays this year. Like, that's fine if you're coming into my home, but I don't want my curtains, tucked that way, or, whatever it is. Like, I have things the way I want them, and I'm an adult, and don't touch my stuff, and the same thing in the office. Don't touch my stuff, And
Yeah.
it sounds like silly and petty and childish, but I think those are the little things that create those boundaries where people are doing it because you don't have boundaries. But if you share with them what those things are that bother you, or that what your lines are, then everyone feels more comfortable, because then you're respected, your boundaries are respected, then you don't get mad at them. It's like a whole
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking. You got to do it before you get mad, because that's what we do.
Right.
We stuff it. And then all of a sudden we have like this emotional waterfall about it. And everyone's like, what's her problem? Right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Like, well,
That's
we should
exactly.
have communicated this like 3 weeks ago, but we were trying to, just.
We're trying to do it all, right?
Right.
That's what we do. We try to do it all. And so that's, I think, the other stigma around like working motherhood and moms in general. Like, everyone just tries to do it all, and it's not sustainable. I mean, that's where burnout comes too. I mean, I was told like a million times when I was working, like, oh, you're super mom. How do you do it? And I guess from the outside, I looked like that, but I did not feel like that. I was tired. I felt sluggish. I was like barely keeping it together, internally, but externally was this beautiful facade of, the kids were put together. I kept my house somewhat organized, like, all the tangible things are what people were looking at, not the mental aspect of what motherhood does to you.
Yes. Ladies, this is what you need to be hearing right now. Okay. Ashley's all pretty on the outside, but she's a mess on the inside. Okay.
I'm a mess. I'm a mess. It's true. It's true. And I write about it all the time on Instagram. I do. I write about it all the time, about like just how much of a mess, things are, and how it is like your mind is just swirling, and you need tools and boundaries to overcome those feelings.
100%. And I was only really joking about that, but yes, I mean, there's truth. All of us, right? All of us are feeling like we have to keep up with, we compare ourselves, right? If she can do it, why can't I do it? What's wrong with me? Right.
Right.
And the moms that are keeping this facade up, right, and you are suffering inside, stop doing that. Stop doing that, because you're not doing any good for yourself, and you're not doing that any good for any of the moms that are watching you either.
No. Yeah. Being real and raw is so hard, because I think sometimes people aren't expecting it. Like when you're out with the other moms, I mean, I know we're not really going out and socializing right now, but when we can, or whatever that may be, even if it's with your close circle, when you get the typical, how are you? And you go, good, I'm fine. How are you? You're going to get that kind of response back. Right. But if you become vulnerable, even just a little bit, it opens up conversations for more. Like, I've even noticed, just by default of having working mom notes within my own community, when I go out with women that maybe I'm just acquaintances with or don't see often, they're much quicker to approach me and say, I'm going through a divorce right now, and this, that, the other, or, whatever it is. And they're vulnerable back. It's like people want the connection, but we're so afraid that we're going to be rejected, but we're not. And women would be so much happier and more relieved knowing that they're not alone. I mean, that's another theme of mine. Like, you are not alone. I'm here to validate your feelings, and it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah. I love it. So it's recognizing being vulnerable, and then also having the right action steps to take, right?
Correct. Yes. Talk about it. Talk about it ad nauseum with your friends, and have boundaries.
Yes. So let's talk really quick. You gave me a few defining moments, and I think that all of these moments are totally relatable. The first one that you gave was when the first day that you dropped off your oldest at daycare, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little about that turning point.
Yeah, it was gut wrenching. So she was exactly 12 weeks old when I dropped her off, and she was exclusively breastfed. I was just lucky enough that it just worked for us, and I was rolling with it. And people told me, you should drop her off, for a few hours the week before, so you both get used to the routine. And I just literally couldn't bring myself to do that. I was like, I want to soak in every second I can with her. And that's what I did. And then I, I made my husband take the morning off so that he could come with me because I was so nervous. And we went and dropped her off, and I brought like her favorite, like the boppy thing. I brought that, and I was like, she likes to lay in this. And of course they're like, we can't have outside stuff in here, and that devastated me. And I just sobbed and sobbed. And I felt like I was like, literally, moms say like that their heart is being like wrenched out. And I never understood, like, it just went against every ounce of instinct that I ever had, was leaving her there. And it was a wonderful daycare. I mean, we ended up loving it. Like, she still speaks fondly of it to this day. But it was so hard for me. And it was in that moment that I felt like I really became a mom that like understood why moms are the way they are with their children. So it was super defining. And I sobbed up until I hit the parking lot of the hospital, and I took a deep breath and I locked it up, and I, blotted my face, and I went, and that was it. And then I kind of never looked back for the next 5 years. So, but it was hard.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So, I mean, was there anything in that moment or in that experience that made you feel like maybe I'm not doing the right thing? Maybe I shouldn't be at work.
Oh yeah. Every ounce of me thought that. But then I was also told that that's how you're going to feel. They were like, this is how you're going to feel. It's normal. And even women at work that saw me like in the locker room, because we have to change into scrubs. And, I kind of like lost it again that time. And, they, everyone was super supportive and comforting. And they just said, it's really hard, and you kind of just have to desensitize yourself to it in a way. And it's like kind of sad to think that that's what you need to do with your newborn child here in the US, but it's kind of where we are right now, culturally. So that's what I did. And it became easier, but it took me several weeks to sort of get into the rhythm. Really, that was on a Monday. And by Thursday, I like had lost it again. Like I couldn't even keep it together. When I walked into the office for clinic hours, like I was just like sobbing in one of the patient rooms.
So, okay. So, I mean, this did go on a bit, but the thing that didn't change your mind was societal standards, or people just saying to you like this is normal. You'll get over it.
Yeah. They just, everyone just says, yeah, we all go through this. This is kind of the, I thought it was like the price you pay for being a working mom. I literally thought that, okay, well, this is how we all feel. And, if I want to work, this is what I have to put myself through.
If you could do it over again, knowing what you know now, would you have done things differently?
No, because it truly made me, it sounds so cliche, but it made me who I am today, in the sense that I do have that empathy for what other women are going through. And I really can look back on what I did and how I did it, knowing wholeheartedly that I did everything I could in my power to make it work. Like I really did.
You know what? I love what you just said, because that it gave you the ability to have that empathy, right? Because had you given into that, and then maybe, being confronted with other working moms, maybe them having a hard time, it's easy to be judged. I'm not saying you would have been judgmental, but I think it's easy for women that don't go, everyone goes through their own struggle. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make this like a, stay at home, work in the house mom versus a go to work mom, rival thing right now. No. But I will say there's an element of that does exist. because sometimes there isn't that element of empathy.
Correct.
Because yes, we do go through struggles, but they are different. So, for me, it was actually hard for me to hang out with some moms that didn't have a job that they went to, because sometimes when I was like a frazzled wreck, they didn't understand it and I felt judged.
Correct. I felt the same way within my community, like, or even on the days off where I would like try to maybe engage in a mommy and me class, and I'd meet these women and they were like, oh, what do you do? Oh, you work? Oh, like basically you leave your child like I did. I felt judged and I didn't feel any support or empathy for sort of what I was going through, especially with a young infant. It made me feel selfish, but at the same time, from the working women world, not online community, but just like within my community, they were trying to support me, but also, it's that plight is minimized a lot. They're just like, oh, this is what happens, you'll get over it, and
Right.
you do, but it doesn't. I don't know. It was still really hard.
Yeah. So that was your first defining moment. And then your second one had to do with leaving your position, right?
Correct.
What was your third one?
The third one was finally discovering myself.
Yeah. So tell us about that, leaving your high-paying position that you went through a ton of schooling for, invested, like 7 years? How long did you?
Yeah, over 7 years.
7 years. Okay, tell us about that.
It was terrifying. So going back to saying, like, I really truly felt like I did everything, like in terms of my commitment and loyalty to this company. I mean, I couldn't have been, more loyal or committed. I think I took like 1 or 2 sick days in 7 years. I rarely used all my vacation time. I was always available to the doctors that I worked with. And I showed up, I was pregnant with my second and had shingles. I still came to work with shingles. It was like a mess. I had the flu, like one with another pregnancy. Basically I was there. I worked up until past my due date every time. And then between pregnancies, I was reliable. So I finally decided at the beginning of this year, after being back from maternity leave for 8 weeks and had been working for 8 weeks, that I just didn't feel valued within the company anymore. And I definitely felt like I was being singled out. Other employees saw it as well and, commented on it to me. And it was hurtful. It was kind of like a breakup. You feel like you did everything you could to, even through these pregnancies and being a working mom. Like, this was my last baby. I was like, all right, now I'm really ready to like hit the ground running hard. Like, no more pregnancies, no more maternity leaves. Like, let's do this. And I was really just like cast aside for a male, a male employee. So it really hurt my feelings. And I spoke to my husband about it. I tried to pivot within the company. And it just didn't, I wasn't satisfied with my new role. So I resigned, and it was terrifying. I, my whole life, have either worked or been in school or both at the same time. And this was the first time that I was neither. And so what does that mean? Like, who am I? Am I just a mom? And I know there's so much stigma around saying it that way, but it's hard. Like, who am I? How do I define myself? And then I felt like I had been relegated to a role I didn't really want to be in full time, and it was hard. It took me, I had told you in the pre-interview, like, I kept waiting for the quote unquote Monday to come. Like, I felt like I was on a long vacation, and not that I had actually resigned. So every day I'd wake up and be like, oh, is today Monday? Is it time to go back to work? And it wasn't. And I didn't interview for other positions because of the pandemic and being in healthcare with my young children. I didn't want to add that level into our home. And it sort of, the timing worked out insanely well, but it was hard, really hard to do, and to come to that realization that, you know, it's okay to, you know, not be in this job anymore. And it's not that I don't want to work or be in a job, but it's okay to not be in that job. And that's the biggest, you know, point for me in that resignation, was understanding that you really, the company, you know, work will not pay you back. Your family will, but work will never. As great as they can be for any period of time, family is more important.
Yeah.
Family. Sorry. Yes. Sorry. This one is always my number 2.
Oh no. Who is it?
This is Sydney. Say hi.
Hi. Hi, Sydney. How are you?
All right, sweet girl. You sit right there, okay? Okay. Sorry. Continue.
No worries. It happens all the time. It's great. All right, cool. So do you think that if it weren't for the pandemic, you would have been applying for other positions?
Yeah, I actually did. I was actively applying and had a few offers and declined them because of the pandemic.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, but because of the pandemic, and we're not going to get too into what you're working on right now because it's still in its infancy, but that has actually afforded you the ability to realize, like, hey, I can actually start my own business.
Correct. Yeah. I had always wanted to do this and never had the time before. So it was truly like a part-time thing, you know, after hours.
Right.
I was really careful while I worked full time, especially because it's social media based. Sorry, I know this is distracting.
No, it's totally fine. That's what we're about.
That I didn't want to be posting or commenting back or anything during working hours. So it was truly like a before work and after work thing. And it kind of killed me a little bit because nope, please don't do that, silly. We're clicking.
Any mom that's listening to this, by the way, is not distracted.
No, not distracted, right? It's just like,
no, we're totally listening. I'm listening.
Yeah. So, you're a silly girl. So, see, now, of course, I lost my thought on what we were saying. But
what were we talking about? Now I lost it.
I know. That's the good
noises.
No, but so basically, I decided that now I actually have the time to focus fully 100% on Working Mom Notes, what that means as a brand, what that means as a, you know, hopefully future business owner, what that means for working women, and how I can contribute to other women not being put in, you know, positions that I was put in, or feelings that I had, and hopefully just be supportive. And as you can see, this is one of 3 girls, and hopefully make changes so that they never go through this as well. So that's my motivation here. And I'm really excited about everything, you know, that's kind of coming down the pike. So it's been a lot of fun, and I definitely feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, which is so weird. Because if you had told me that in January, I would have, you know, scoffed and, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing with our work momhood journey. We get lost in it, and then all of a sudden we turn a corner and we're like, oh,
right. Yeah, it was there all along. Like, I kind of call, like, when you're literally on the hamster wheel, like you're just doing the daily grind, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, and you don't know how to break the cycle. And that's the hardest part in that, is breaking the cycle. And then once you break it, it's like literally you're free. It's like breaking chains.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean like go work for yourself, but that means like maybe the company philosophies aren't working for you and you need to be with a different company. And that doesn't mean, we were talking again pre-interview, that doesn't mean you're a failure. And that's what held me in the role for so long, is I didn't want to be a quitter. I didn't want to be a failure. I wanted to prove myself and have a good reputation. And if I'm quitting, that means that I can't handle it. And that's just not the case.
No, it's not. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I just told my friend the other day, because this is what I always tell women when they say that. And I say, stop being arrogant. It's not a
Yes, it's true. It's not, okay, sweet girl.
It's not you not doing a good job.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that.
It's being in the wrong environment.
Correct. Yeah, just like I literally always equate jobs to relationships, right? Like it's so rare for someone. Okay, Sid. Okay, okay. No more. No more. I'm gonna ask the babysitter. I'm so sorry. So yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line. You're not being arrogant. You're not a failure. You are just not, it's just not right for you. Because like I said, you equate jobs to relationships I do. And sometimes it's time to break up, and it's not because they're a bad person or you're a bad person. It just literally, the chemistry is not there anymore,
Right. And just like relationships, it's a part of our identity.
Correct. And it's hard to make that initial break, and then eventually, the initial break is the hardest part, and then you kind of mourn it and, but then you move on and you
100%.
better things, ironically.
Yes. So you just talked about breaking chains.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that brings us to our third turning point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about that, and then give our viewers one piece of advice about breaking those chains and start getting on the path to becoming you and being experiencing your identity and being at peace with yourself.
Yeah. So when, like I said, in January, it was really hard and sad, and I was at a loss. I had 3 kids under 5. Up. You're up, girly.
Come on,
Sid.
Go.
You gotta go.
No.
All right, then you have to sit quietly. Sorry. Go on, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Now I'm gonna have that Gloria Estefan song in my head, because the way that you said that, you know that song? 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, you're fine. So it was sad, and I really didn't know. I didn't feel like a woman. I felt like a little girl. Like, what am I doing? Like, I, have these 3 kids. I, kind of played in a grown-up job for a little while. I'm married, but like, what am I doing? Like, who am I? And like, why do I care so much about what people think? And I cared a lot. I cared a lot about what people thought at
Yes.
too much, and I really tried to cater to making sure I was always seen in a good light by those people. Again, too much. So after I left, I really just, I was in therapy. I'm still in therapy. I talk to my therapist once a week, and, really just working through some inner, challenges that I've had in defining myself as me,
Right.
And really through this whole process with working mom notes, talking to other wonderful moms like yourself, making connections all over the country with other working women, I feel like I've really just found my niche, and myself. And it's really been wonderful feeling confident in, what I'm saying. I don't have anxiety around what I'm saying. Where at work in the past, I always did. Like, I always felt like I was being questioned, or even if I wasn't being questioned, I was questioning myself. It was like classic imposter syndrome. And
Right.
I don't feel that way anymore. And I think it's important to put yourself in an environment where you feel supported, and by not only the people you're with and around, but like internally with yourself. Like, you feel you're not giving yourself negative feedback, you're giving yourself positive feedback. So that's really where it came down to me truly finally feeling like a woman. And I posted about this about a month ago, saying, I felt for so long like a girl. Like, I don't know how, I didn't know how to become a woman, essentially. And it really took these experiences to get there, to feel that way, figuring out what my boundaries are, making clear delineations, making decisions for myself in the way like a grown-up would, and I
Yeah.
thought I'd been making decisions for myself as a grown-up, but I was making them for other people or for society.
Yes.
I wasn't making them for me. So that was huge to be finally making decisions that, I mean, I wouldn't exactly call leaving a job radical, but to me it was,
Right.
because it's kind of out of character for me.
Right.
So it was huge. So the one piece of advice I'd give to women everywhere is truly follow your gut
Yes.
and do what that is telling you, because it's not lying, and it might feel crazy or feel radical, but it's not, because it's going to lead you to where you should be, and that in and of itself helps give you such a sense of purpose. It decreases anxiety. It just literally like opens up this whole other perspective of what we're doing, and it gives you really good direction.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You just made me a bobblehead. I'm
Yes.
like, yes, everything you're saying. Yes, I'm eating it up. I love that. Ladies, like replay those last 2 minutes that Ashley just said and really get it into your brain. You are writing your story. Don't let anyone else write your story. You are writing your story, and take ownership of it. It's okay to take ownership of it. And that's when you start listening to your gut, that's when you're going to start feeling peace in your heart.
Yeah.
Ashley, thank you so much for sharing part of your mom work journey with us. You're amazing. Ladies, if you haven't started following Working Mom Notes, get on your Instagram right now and go follow. What is the handle?
Working Mom Notes.
Working Mom Notes. See,
Yeah.
we made it nice and easy for you.
Nice and easy.
All right. We will see you next time on the She Interviews. Thank you so much, Ashley. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.